Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to have some people straggling in, but we'll let them in. I'm so glad that you can join us here in our Power Hour today. Our topic is strengthening students' financial literacy. And you see there on the slide, we're just asking where you're joining from and what age you work with, just to kind of get an idea of where people are. I see Canton, Ohio, Finland, and sorry, Jessica, you're enjoying the music. Maybe we can play a little more at the end. I know I thought, well, financial literacy and all the things you could buy with $1 million, this goes hand in hand. What would you buy? And then, I started listening to one of my good old favorites from the 90s, and thinking about, buy you a house and buy you furniture for the house and buy you a car. And so that was, yeah, it was a good connection. I thought it was, get in the spirit of thinking about how money is earned and spent and what kinds of things people can buy or do with their money, as we launch into the financial literacy. So for those of you that have not been on or don't know me, I'm Elizabeth Clymer now, previously Elizabeth's Choice. So I recently got married. Very exciting. I
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am the senior manager of education here at Young Entrepreneur Institute, and I'm really excited to host some great speakers here today. So we will have we will first have John Bakalar talk. John is a teacher. He's been teaching for 18 years, starting his career at Crestwood Local Schools for 13 years and Chagrin Falls High School for the last 5. In 2010, he was named Crestwood High School Teacher of the Year and recognized as one of the 2024 Chagrin Valley Rotary Today's Teachers and the 2025 Ohio Insurance Institute Insurance Educator of the Year. After John, we will hear from Marsha Masters. She will share about an offering from Economics Arkansas. She joined Economics Arkansas in 2009 after having taught for over 20 years. In her role, she provides numerous professional development offerings to educators pre-K through 12th grade throughout the state of Arkansas and nationally. In addition, she operates a small number of student competitions for Arkansas students. She's also involved with economic education, entrepreneurship education, and financial literacy on a national level through the National Association of Economic Educators and is honored to serve as a commissioner of the Arkansas Financial Education Commission. After Marsha, we will hear from Dr. Sonia Toledo, who is a speaker, writer, researcher, and social entrepreneur passionate about training educators in 21st century learning and teaching youth the mindset of an entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of Dignity of Children, a training and development organization that offers educators extensive resources, including emotional intelligence training, trauma-informed care, innovative facilitation and engagement strategies, and complete K through 12 PBL curricula. She holds a PhD in education with a focus on global training and development and has more than 25 years of experience working in the after-school field. Dr. Toledo is a creator of Ideas Empowered by Youth, an innovative teaching training program that prepares educators to teach young people social entrepreneurship. And last but certainly not least, we will hear from Lindly Fernandez, who will talk about VentureLab resources to build financial literacy. Lindly is an accomplished and passionate educator whose efforts have positively impacted numerous nonprofit organizations and underprivileged communities. After college, she helped teens develop professional interpersonal skills through on-the-job training and classroom support. This experience offered opportunities to develop curriculum and work as a mentor for young entrepreneurs. Her passion for education and community development led her to her current position as a program coordinator and certified trainer for VentureLab. She aims to empower, invest in, and promote growth in all those she works with. And before we hear from our speakers, I do want to just remind you quickly that we are recording this session. And after the recording, all the slides, links, resources, everything from this Power Hour will be sent to you in a follow-up email with a link to a folder that you can peruse at your leisure. And then in the chat, keep putting in, where you're coming from and what ages you work with. but then you can also add any questions or comments while the speakers are speaking, and we can address anything as it comes up. But then at the end of the power hour, if there's time, we can also do live question and answer session. So, all right, I'm going to pass it off to John now.
Awesome. I'm going to put my presentation in the chat now, just so it's at least there too, and share my screen and go ahead and get started here. So thanks for having me and inviting me to do this. Um, I hope that that's showing. Is that showing? Yes. Okay, cool. So just my background, super humbling to be asked to do this. I love going to these things and just learning from others. So to be on the other side of it is pretty cool. And I just hope that I can give you a couple things that I think have made a big impact on what I do in the classroom. So just, Elizabeth hit on just my background. So I've been at Chagrin Falls. This is my 5th year teaching here, and I've taught middle school. I've taught high school. So I've taught grades 7 through 12, and being in 2 different districts, kind of seeing one community that's rural, low income. Now I'm in a suburban, wealthier community, but I think that a lot of these things can be used really by anyone, and you can kind of tailor these things to what you really need. The financial literacy state standards have changed, and that always makes things challenging. You're here because you want to learn something and get better, and I think that when the state throws in like a new wrinkle and you kind of start to figure things out, so to speak, then they just add in free market capitalism. And, so that I think has been a challenge for me personally this year, because I've got to the point where it's like I feel like I know what I can do every year, and now where am I going to fit this in? So hopefully some of these resources will help you with that too. Um, I think in terms of curriculum, these are like the go-tos. I mean, there's a lot of slideshows, like they call it like plug and play. I mean, instead of creating your own slideshows and things, which I will do as well, and have found that really there's a lot of content out there. Next Gen Personal Finance is free. EverFi is free. The University of Arizona is free. And they just have a lot of great slideshows to kind of at least serve as a starting point for developing content. So, like, I've found myself using things from the University of Arizona, and I really like their slideshows because I feel that they're pretty short, and then I can add interactive materials to them, like Poll EV, where if maybe students aren't necessarily participating in class verbally, Poll EV is a great tool to use in Google Slides, where you can ask interactive questions and things like that. But if you're looking for things that are already like developed, ready to go, formatted, I think really any of these are really great resources. And sometimes doing this too, it can be like overwhelming, because there are a lot of good free resources out there. So I think it's a little bit of trial and error, but also a little bit of a buffet. Next Gen Personal Finance might have some things that are really good, and then you might look at University of Arizona and be like, you know what, actually this one's a little bit better. So you just kind of got to get in there, and see what they have, and see how it fits to what you already maybe are doing, or maybe like, you know what, I really struggled with this unit, like on insurance, and maybe that they have a better slideshow, better activities, that I can take, try myself, and then figure out how that works best for me. Um, there's a lot of competitions that take place that I try to get my students involved in as much as possible. I think like authentic learning is really important. And these are mostly investing competitions. And there are 2 that are held by universities here in Ohio, one through the University of Cincinnati and one through the University of Ashland. I've had my students participate in the University of Cincinnati one. We're doing that currently. It runs for 10 weeks, but there are also um, longer timelines and shorter timelines. I teach a semester long class, and so 10 weeks is kind of good for me. This competition that we're doing will wrap up next week. And there's a lot of content as well that the stock market game or the University of Cincinnati provides to you as well. it does cost $20 a team. So what I do is I just make teams of 3 or 4 to get the most value out of it. But I know that sometimes when you have students in groups, the larger that group is, the less involved some people are. So I'd like to try to keep it to 2 or 3 kids, so that way everyone's getting something out of it. And that was something Chagrin used, so I kind of just grandfathered into that. I know that the University of Ashland or Ashland University uses their own as well. My daughters have participated in that one through Aurora, so I've kind of seen how that one works. And of course, like anything, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wish the University of Cincinnati did that. And then I'm also like, well, oh, that's how Ashland does it. I'm like, in the University of Cincinnati, they do it this way. So I think again, it's just kind of trying things and seeing what works best for you. But I have the most familiarity with the University of Cincinnati one. And the cool thing is too, they give prizes to the winners. Last year we actually finished first. That was really cool. Students got to go down to the University of Cincinnati, give a presentation, and they got awards and like plaques and stuff for finishing first. So there's just opportunities as students place well in these things to really just build their resume. I think there's like 500 students competing in the University of Cincinnati game. So I tell them if they finish in the top 100, they should absolutely be putting that on a college resume or a job application that you finished in the top 20 percentile of something. These are all things that they can kind of hang their hat on. The junior achievement, I'll highlight them a little later, but so much good programming that they do. And so they do the stock market challenge. You would need to find out who like runs your junior achievement. I'm in a strange situation where some of our students go to Geauga, some go to or from Cuyahoga County. So my initial contact with junior achievement was not the right one. So just finding where your junior achievement is based out of and seeing how you can get more information about the stock market game. But very interactive. It'll be coming up this Friday as well. And again, it just gives students that authentic learning and a chance to just kind of be a part of something different other than listening to like Mr. Bakalar talk for 46 minutes about investing, which is pretty boring. In terms of simulations, this one is through CW Pub Online, and this is the one I feel like you gotta like bang the table, like we need this. The renewal rate is super cheap. So I'm at the point where I'm just renewing it every year. The on your own simulation is just worth whatever the cost is anyway, because it's such a cool thing to see where students they live on their own for 1 year. And so they do this all virtually. And so they have to move. You can even pick what city you want them to move to. They'll learn about different cost of living indexes. They have to pass a test to have their career, like a teacher. So if they wanted to be an accountant, they need like an 8 out of 10 on the accounting exam. It's just very interactive and just so close to just things that we see in the real world. So like every week they have to buy groceries or get gas. They'll get these random things where it's like, hey, you need to go to the store and get stamps. And the kids are like, I need stamps. I'm like, yeah, you'll need stamps as an adult. And I just kind of chuckle at these things. And they just have to successfully manage it for 1 year. But they also have this one called On the Job, which is really good because it talks more about like when you're working, like how would you handle the situation? And they get little points for their answers. And it's just I use it as a time for them to go through the simulations and then just reflect, like, hey, what went well, what didn't go well. If this were the real world, what would you do? If you were doing the simulation, what would you do? And it's kind of in a game in its own. And I found that the students, when I ask like for feedback, they're like, I actually enjoyed that. That was fun. So I take that as like something I need to continue doing. So um, they also have a lot of career exploration stuff as well. But I think that it might seem quote unquote expensive, but I think it's like one of those things. Like I said, you kind of pound the table and you be like, there's a lot of resources we can get out of here. And it's worth it, especially if you're teaching financial literacy to like over 100 kids a year. There are a lot of games. Obviously, kids grow up playing games as much as they do. In Next Gen Personal Finance has an arcade section, and they just have some really great stuff in there. And again, I'll let the kids like play the game and reflect on some of these things. One of them is Spent. They basically, just have to live off a certain amount of income for like 30 days. and the game just absolutely challenges them and throws them so many curveballs. And it just kind of talks about, poverty rates and how some people have to file for unemployment, some people have to go to payday loan companies to get an advance on their paycheck. It really challenges them to kind of think on, like, how can I solve these problems? What ethical dilemmas am I going to have to navigate to? Stacks is a really good one. They basically invest versus the computer for like 20 years. And it's a lot of fun because they enjoy just competing against each other, but they also just try to beat a robot. And the robot wins like 90% of the time because it basically says, put your money in the S&P 500 and stop trying to buy individual stocks. Um, Bummer's really good for insurance. I find that to be like a really challenging topic. And because kids are like, insurance, this is boring, and that tends to be a fun game to make a topic that can be dull, but also really relevant that students need. Basically, they just choose insurance policies and they spin random events and events happen to them. And it's how would they navigate through them. The ones that make me laugh are this Shady Slim. I call it Slim Shady. I'm showing my age, so I constantly always say, "Well, the Slim Shady simulation," but it's Shady Slim, and it teaches them just about kind of some of the pitfalls of loans and borrowing money if you aren't careful or financially literate. And the loan shark one is where their job is to basically take advantage of customers, so they learn how potentially they could be taken advantage of if they aren't careful. And the same with buying a car. So I think that really all of those are kind of diverse in the sense that the different units that they'll cover, but they are, yes, fun. Kids will have fun and they'll get frustrated and annoyed when they don't do well because they are competitive too. They want to win and things like that. And financial football is pretty fun, especially for those guys that like to play football, may not be as interested. In terms of just like learning opportunities where maybe you're bringing in guest speakers or you're going through like in-person events, Ohio State University does a program called Real World, Real Money, in where it's in person and they set it up like in a cafeteria or a gym, and you find volunteers in different areas. They will help you do that. And basically, students have to like make it through a simulation in a month in which like they're given a role where they earn so much money, they have so many kids, they have to pay for daycare, they have to budget on time. It was very interesting. I did it for the first time last year, and it couldn't work out that I could do it this fall, but I really want to get back into that. It's around like $600. It's a little expensive, but that's a really unique opportunity to look into. JA Inspire, they held a career fair at Cleveland Public Auditorium. We had like several students walk out of there with literally internship offers. And that was just an amazing event to be able to just take students to see like, hey, these are some great companies in Northeast Ohio that you could come work for, and that you have an opportunity to even potentially start working for now in maybe a limited role, but at least get your foot in the door. Um, Bob Gillingham is a legend. He is the GOAT. He runs a program called How to Become a Millionaire through FinMango. And he'll come to your class, and I'll never forget. He's like, I want to speak to all your classes. I'm like, okay, one day? Sure. No, 5 days. He wants a whole week. So he will take a whole week of your time. He'll take all of your classes. Everyone will be really jealous, but he'll make you click the whole time. But he is phenomenal, and he just connects with kids so well. And I know it can be challenging to get him. So I would just say that, reach out to FinMango. He teaches kids how to be a millionaire just through the power of investing early, and, investing in mutual funds and index funds versus just investing in individual stocks. The Veal Youth Entrepreneurship Forum has so many opportunities to just go out and visit places. They hold a lot of competitions. I love it that we get on all the campuses in Northeast Ohio. They are tailored toward entrepreneurship, but I think that checks the box when we talk about free market capitalism. And they have a skill building workshop. That's probably my favorite. I'm so mad I can't go this year. So I would just visit their website and see if there's opportunities for you to go out and take your class and visit. I know everyone has their own challenges with busing and funding these things. But these are, again, just great opportunities for our students to get outside the classroom. We all have our own little bubbles that we try to get our students out. And I've just found these to be really valuable programs and offerings that I think everyone should be taking advantage of. I always say to my girls, I'm like, yeah, I don't know why, this school's not doing this or that school's not doing that. It always just kind of takes a willing educator and hopefully a supportive administration to allow you to do these things. But they're amazing. And then just some additional resources that I like to use in the class is I tell the kids all the time, like, you know, our teacher would tell us we would not have a calculator in our hand, and sure enough, we all have one. But now we're not allowed to use those in the classroom anyway. But I mean, there are just so many things where we're constantly calculating interest, compounding. Today we're looking at a house and how much interest we would pay on a house in a 30-year fixed versus a 15-year fixed, and we're using like calculators from Bank Rate and NerdWallet. When I said, back in the day we would have to figure this all out ourselves. So I think there's a lot of resources there when you're looking at that stuff. The Federal Reserve has a number of resources that are really tailored toward like banking and insurance fraud and things like that. Ohio Insurance Institute has some really great resources as well, and even the FDIC as well. So I think I surpassed my 10 minutes.
You're okay. There was a lot of resources, and
Yes,
I know some of them are Ohio based, which we do have a variety of people in this area. But then you also provided a lot of things for, we have people from all over the country and even someone from England on. So this was really great just to get the gears turning and thinking about all the ways that people can bring these ideas in, even if they can't use these exact resources, just bring these ideas into their classroom or program. So thank you. That was amazing. A lot
yeah,
of information to sift through. So, and again, these resources will be in the follow-up folder. So John, thank you so much. This
yeah.
was
Thank you.
very informative. And
I
thank you for
appreciate
being
you having
here.
me.
Yeah,
Have a great rest of your
absolutely.
time. I got to shoot
All
off to my
right.
girls' game. I appreciate you
Thanks. Have
slotting me
fun.
first. Thanks.
Yeah. All
Bye.
right. Take care. All right. I'm going to quickly pass that over to Marsha. She can share her resources. Oh, before I do, I'm so sorry. The next three speakers are going to talk about an online platform called Yippee. And if you don't know anything about Yippee or haven't registered for Yippee, please stay on after the speakers and I can kind of give you the rundown about that. Everyone on here is going to get points on Yippee for coming today, and I'll talk about that after the speakers. But I just want to make sure if you hear them talk about Yippee, we will talk about what Yippee is and how to use it, how to register, how to get the points for being here today and how you can get more points on Yippee. We'll talk about all of that after. So I'm not going to leave you hanging on what Yippee is if you hear that talked about. All right, go ahead, Marsha.
Thank you for letting me join today. I noticed in the chat in the participants that I have some good Arkansas friends on with me. I work closely with Marion and Halola, and I saw Tim on. I work for an organization called Economics Arkansas. So while John shared tremendous resources, really maybe for middle secondary, these really span for the elementary level K-6. We call them grab and go guides. As was mentioned, I've taught for a very long time before I came to work at Economics Arkansas. And a lot of times I found myself creating resources, or I was looking for a book that would tie in or a lesson that would go with the book. Sometimes I couldn't find the book or the lesson. And so these are designed to be those guides that you can grab and go teach content that's important for life with really little or no prep. And all of the activities are differentiated for different learning styles and different academic performance levels in the classroom. So they were developed by some colleagues in our state who have great background as it relates to economic education and also classroom experience. So I always like to start though, when you hear economics, I know you think a lot of different things. So if you were on Family Feud and the top 5 answers were on the board for what economics is all about, what do you suppose the number one answer would be? Just put it in the chat. The top 5 answers on the board for what economics is, what do you think most people would say? I'm going to look quickly at the chat. Okay, so I see a lot of different answers, but one that tends to pop up a lot, and when I ask students in the school setting or in the collegiate level, they say it's all about money. Well, I want to tell you that we define economics in the economic education realm as the science of decision making. So when you think about that, you do think about decisions you make with money, but you also think about decisions that you make every day. So let me ask you, what's the hardest decision that you've made today? Have there been any hard ones? Probably in your daytime, if you stop to think about it, you would be overwhelmed by the number of decisions that you've made. I hate to tell you, those who are educators on, I think the stats say throughout history that you make like 4+ decisions every minute of the day. So when you go home, that's why you're exhausted. So what these guides, which are a product on Yippee, do is they allow you to not have to think, but to help your students understand that they have the ability to make a choice, they have a voice to make a decision. So in economics, we say that our goal is that we kind of learn how to make decisions that best benefit us. Not every decision has a right or wrong. And we begin by telling the story in these simple guides. So there's 12 in the pack. Guide number 1 starts with the whole idea that what I think most of us are good at is that we like to be consumers. We have desires to be or not to be, and they're satisfied by consuming goods and services. So each one of the guides has an explanation, it has some vocabulary, it has a fold-out guide that gives you 3 interactives that you could do with your students, rather graphic organizers, not a worksheet, one and done, but could be used a variety of times throughout the school year. One of the things that we're really good at in economic education is writing very long lesson plans, very long. So the good news about these guides is that they're explained in like a half page, oftentimes with some samples that go along to help. And they also show how to extend it across the curriculum. So you will see, if you look closely, and I don't know how you can see that screen, that the concept of money really doesn't come into discussion until Guide 7 in this set, but there is some discussion. So in economics, we say that there are really 4 factors of production. There's human resources, us who work, natural resources, gifts of nature, capital resources, tools and equipment, and the 4th one is entrepreneurship. That person who's willing to take the risk to organize those to bring a product to the marketplace. Every person, every student that you interact with in your classroom ultimately is going to have to be a person who learns, though, how to manage their resources that they have from the income that they learn. So let me ask you this question. So you guys are on it today, so let me just ask. There was a study done a few years ago, and it's ask Americans, I don't know if they were all honest, how much do you have an idea of where your money went in the past month? Some of you probably are great budgeters, whether on Excel spreadsheet, an app, whatever. What would your answer be? Do you think that it's a high number or a low number of Americans who said no clue where it went? Some of you look at you. I love it. Greg knows to the penny. So you're an exception to the rule, Greg. I'm so proud of you. I don't know how you do that, but I'm proud that you do. And hopefully you're helping your students with that. Oh, Patty has no choice. She's married to a CPA. Well, of the research that was done, of the people who commented, 65% said they had no idea where their money went. And we know what happens if that's the case. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will leave you. And the important thing to understand is that students think that if I have a lot of zeros on my paycheck, I'm going to have a lot of money. Not necessarily. It's how you manage the money that you have. The Will Rogers quote's my favorite. We spend too much money trying to impress people we don't even like sometimes with our choices. So I wanted to share with you that in one of the guides, it seems like Greg's a great budget person. He has a plan for his money. We want that discussion to start early because research says that by age 7, children have begun to form many of their adult money habits. So in guide number 8, it talks about allocating. In one of the guides, it talks about allocating money, and your students get beans or pennies. Maybe beans, pennies aren't around as much anymore, I guess. And they have acted as if they've earned income, and they have to allocate where they would put their beans or their pennies. Each one of our guides has like a children's lit application that you could use, but you don't have to. to allocate your funds. And after all of your 12 pennies have gone somewhere, your students look up to see how they've spent them, shared them, or saved them. And then the hard work, you take three off and you have to determine what are you willing to give up. And then they kind of have a chance to decide how their money is put to use. Yes, the bean game is really great for especially the older. So that's kind of the elementary version. The one guide I wanted to talk to you about is the guide that's really focused on entrepreneurship because it has a financial literacy component. The fold out guide looks like this. So your students get a chance to research entrepreneurs. They get a chance to pitch like a Shark Tank. And then they get a chance to look at the financial aspect that an entrepreneur considers when they're starting a business. So simply, you could use this questioning success. I'm using it Friday with a group of gifted educators to look at businesses related to winter weather. But you could pull out a children's lit book and have your students learn the story behind success of entrepreneurs. But what I love, my favorite activity in the guide is this one. How much profit? Just last night, I went to a marketplace of a group of students who had, as a class, started a business. They had to learn the hard way that they had to pay for their resources to get started. To do that, they wrote a proposal, got a loan from their bank president, their principal, and they had to pay that back today after they calculated to see if they'd made a profit. So this one starts with rolling a die to realize that in order to start a business, you have to have workers, you have to have materials, you have to have equipment before you even enter the marketplace. And then you create widgets, you go to market, you have 25 to sell, you roll the die to see how much people are willing to pay, and then you do the math. And you find out that sometimes that brings a profit, but sometimes it's not always. So I know that I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and some of them creatively have a plan for how they're going to make that profit. But this makes them at least reflect on some of the components that goes into that factors of production. So each one of the guides has like an activity that I super love. But I just wanted to point out one today that kind of had a financial literacy component and also dealt with entrepreneurship education. I will put in the chat where you can find these digitally online on our website, but we would love for you to have them in your hands and you can get them from the Yippee store. I go out and I give them out to teachers all the time and I tell them it's online and they always say, I like to hold things. I do too. This is my contact information. If you want to ever ask me any questions about this or anything else, I'd love to work with you or help you. And I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it back to Elizabeth and I'm going to put into the chat the link for the digital files because you might want to check them out now. Thanks for letting me share today.
Thank you so much. That was really well done and made that really engaging and exciting. I hope that everybody checks out that fun resource on Yippee, or on your website. But yeah, get that in your hands from Yippee with the points. Um, all right, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Marsha. I'm gonna pass it on over to Dr. Sonia Toledo. You're muted.
Let me start again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to go straight into it because I really want to share with you just the foundation. And this is a curriculum that we created back in, I think, in 2019. And the intention of this is to teach the mindset of financial well-being and prosperity, right? So it's like, what does it mean to be prosperous? But we got to think, and the way we think, and just like Marsha mentioned, is the decision making we have. So our attitude about money is all about our decision making about money. So we created a journey. I don't know if how many of you remember the game of life. Yeah, sometimes it's like really far away. So this was designed for either a teacher or an after school provider to take this journey with with your young people as young as fourth grade I recall. I did a fourth grade group back last spring, and it was two classrooms with fourth graders, and you'd be surprised how intrigued they are about learning these concepts. So basically, this is focused on one, building collaboration. So we put kids on teams, um, project based, so that everything is based on a finished project. So they'll have different projects that they'll work on throughout the time. You could, and the most important thing is research based. So they are actually looking for the information themselves, and they're analyzing, comparing, and making decisions based on the data that they find, and then create for themselves as a team or individually. The way we are focused, we could do this in a semester or the whole school year. The way we designed this curriculum, it is online. It does have a facilitator's guide that you could follow for those of us who want the step by step, but there's also a lot of flexibility for all of the resources that Marsha mentioned. And God, I forgot his name and he just left. Um, our first two
John.
guests. Say it again.
John Bakalar.
Don, yes. Don
Perfect.
mentioned those are all these resources that you could also implement in this journey that you're taking with your young people. So we do have this on Yippee. It's been very popular on Yippee, and teachers will just take the journey. So I want to just tease you with some of the areas that we're talking about. Something that Marsha mentioned was that, you know, it's life. It's all about life. It's just not about money. Where it's not a discussion that we have early in our with our young people about learning what money means in your life. So we start with values. We start with really having kids understand what is the value base, what are their values, what's important to them, and what are the values that they want to create in their classrooms that support um, everyone in the room, right? So there's like a discussion. Everything is based on um, learning a concept and then discussing it and deciding how are we going to implement it. So they have to actually implement something. So let me just tease you a little bit. This young lady is amazing. She talks about core values and she has them go through a process of, you know, listing as many values as you want, and then you narrow it down until you get to your top three for you personally, and then they get to like write something about themselves and why they choose the values that they do. So again, this is a Prezi, what I'm showing you here. So the teachers have a guided, you know, a guided way and activities that they could do, or they could even expand on this certain activity. So the value piece is very important because what we talk about is it's all about how you feel about yourself and what you want in your life and how you create your life that you have a prosperous life. So we have a few journeys that they go through. So the prosperity mindset is based on there's a reading, The Richest Man in Babylon, which talks about, um, you know, making money, make money, investing, having a talent, having a skill to make money, or a product to make money, having money. What I mean, have 10% of your earnings goes to tithing and investment, and there's different levels of savings. So, you know, we talk about how saving for emergencies, saving for the future, saving for a big item like a house or a car and stuff like that. So they do have a reading, which is the richest man in Babylon, and they discuss all the money, but they also go through a community project. That's one of the projects that because we want them to talk about how they give and receive, right? So it's like a cycle. It's an energy cycle. So they go through understanding the United Nations development goals, and they choose an area that they want to make a difference in their community, and they come up with a community project. So this is like in the beginning of saying, okay, so if I want to be prosperous, part of my prosperity is that I give. So this is one project. Another project is that they could always create a video about their community service project and upload it on Awakening Voices, which is a website for all community doing good. So they could advertise their own giving, doing good in the community and post it on the Awakening. So they even get a little tutorial on creating a documentary. Dare to Dream. Dare to Dream is about them creating their future. So not only do they go through like their talent and their passions, but they also start creating um, their career paths. So there's a section on where they go through um, just an exploratory, what are their talents, what are the things they like, what are the things that matter to them in order for them to decide which career path they're going to do. So they actually create a presentation individually on their career path, on their exploration. Like we talk about, it's great to have mentors, it's great to go out there and intern, it's great to go out there and see if you actually like doing that. Because it's like, it sounds good to be a social worker, but what, go out there and actually see what and feel what a social worker actually does. Talk to people, interview people, so you can understand if that's the area you want to go. But since they start with the developmental goals, right? They could do climate, they could do economics, they could do poverty, they could do women's issues, they could do all kinds of broad issues, and then narrow it down to see that there's so many opportunities for careers once they understand who they are, what they like, what matters to them. There's a self-care, a deep self-care piece about what does it mean to care for yourself and how does money relate to that. We also do a lifestyle. Um, Don mentioned about like a simulation of life. So there's a couple of games there of how, how would you, if you had this amount of money, how would you budget your money out? And if you want to live in this community versus this community, they do the research to see what's the lifestyle they want to live, where would they like to live, and what's the cost of living. So how much money would you like need to make in order to live in this kind with this lifestyle, and the career path, right? It all kind of ties in. And then the financial wellness, we definitely go into the cost of being poor, the mindset, there's one activity that I remember, the wants and needs. So, you know, if you want a pair of roller skates but you need to buy a calculator, how do you choose your wants and your needs, even as young as, fourth grade? Um, so pretty much the ultimate goal is that they present to mentors. We want to make sure that they are expressing their visions, their career, their lifestyle, and what matters to them in the world where they want to make a difference. And we want to either do showcases with their parents, but most importantly with professionals. So we like to we recommend that you match them up. We had the fourth and fifth graders actually create a video, and they will send the video to professionals in the area, and they would kind of rate them with a rubric, and they will get a response, a video back, giving them some, heads up of like, I love what you did, and I talked about your career. We want to match them up with people that are in the similar career that they're thinking about. And of course, if they do a community service, we want to make sure that they get showcased on that as well. So this is a curriculum that you could prolong it as long as you want and continue to add to it, get other resources so you could get deep down into a concept for a while, or depending, because we've done this with high schoolers as well. We've done this with um, young adults as well. Here in New York, we do summer youth employment. So one year we did, during the pandemic, we did over 1,000 young people with the financial literacy, and they presented career goals. They presented their community service projects to other professionals online. So it's really about creating a community around the concept of financial literacy with a good mindset. And you could find me on my website, but most of all, you could find me on Yippee.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a wonderful game. It really incorporates all these different aspects, and I
Mhm.
love that bringing in the UN goals. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. Um, and finally, Lindley, can I pass it to you to talk about Venture Lab?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, we have been richly fed with resources. I'm really excited to share what VentureLab has to offer. I'm dropping some things in the chat for y'all to look at, and um, just very excited to be on the panel with such brilliant brilliant like organizations and programs. I'm excited to look more into what they're doing. So my name is Lindly Fernandez. I am a program coordinator at VentureLab. And for those of you who are not familiar with VentureLab, we focus on creating youth entrepreneurial education for young learners through an STEAM framework. So bringing STEM and the arts to life through an entrepreneurial lens. So I love that entrepreneurship has already been discussed. And so we're going to dig a little bit into the resources that we have to offer. In the chat, I dropped a table of contents for Venture Lab's How to Teach Entrepreneurship full curriculum. We're not going to talk about that whole thing, but know that these different activities are available on Yippee. The one that we're going to dive into today is called How to Teach Financial Literacy and Business Model, specifically to our younger kiddos, grades 1 and 2. But you can also find these same lessons that are developmentally appropriate for grades 3 through 5, as well as 6 through 12, if you're not working with the littles. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about, and this is what this section right here, business models, um, talking about how do we take abstract terms and turn them into concrete things that a first and second grader can understand. So concepts like profit, loss, revenue, expenses. And the way that we do that at VentureLab is helping them create a tangible experience. And so this series of activities allows them to go through a hands-on entrepreneurial process in your classroom. So you're kind of creating this mock experience for them in your classroom. And so it starts with students forming an idea, then creating something tangible to sell, and then having a oh my gosh, that's a tongue twister, a mock marketplace in your classroom, and then bringing all those concepts together to reflect on what they just did. So in the chat, and Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you to be my eyes, but if any of you have ever done a mock marketplace or a real marketplace with your students, I'd love to hear like what were some of the learnings that you had? What did you do? I think that I can say what we envisioned, but we have so many people on here. If you want to chat in, if you've done something like this, I'd love to hear from you as well via chat. And so we're going to begin with the end in mind of creating a marketplace in your classroom. So imagine your students in your classroom, they have things in front of them, their inventory that they've made. Maybe their product is made out of cardboard and pipe cleaners and tin foil. It doesn't have to be an actual full product that they can go out and sell at the store. This is a mock experience. And so then they have their inventory, they're able to go around with their classmates, make those physical transactions, give some money, get something back. Um, and you can find all of these different things in our PDF. So students can make their own money. We have venture bucks that you can cut out and they can, right, have their own little stash to go and spend. Um, but really going back to the beginning, it starts with helping students come up with an idea and then rooting it in a business model. So we have simplified business models, right, where they're able to write or draw out their idea, think about who they would sell this to, think about their unique value proposition of what makes their idea special, and then start to think about those physical resources. What do I need to make my idea come to life? And then how much am I going to sell it for? How much money can I make? And so this process really allows them to kind of tangibly go through those things. For our wonderful educators, there is a filled out one so that you don't have to work from scratch. Um, and you can also know, right, as you're working with first and second graders, there may be some scaffolding involved on here. You know your students best. And so just really making it fit for your classroom, your needs, keeping it simple. And the last thing I really want to talk about is this little box right here. So we do love helping to create the next generation of innovators and change makers, but more importantly, we want to help these students think and practice the entrepreneurial mindset. Because regardless of if they have this awesome experience in your classroom and say, I'm going to go start my own business, um, whatever they choose to do and pursue, we know that financial literacy, business concepts are going to help them in the long run. And so as we can teach them to do things like be an opportunity seeker or take risk, right? Learn how to be persistent. These things can really set them up for success. And so if you're also interested in them thinking like entrepreneurs, another awesome thing that we have on Yippee is these entrepreneurial mindset posters. And so you can use your Yippee points and we will mail you some really beautiful, colorful posters. So these are all of the entrepreneurial mindsets that VentureLab focuses on in their curriculum. But then you can also see that each of these will have the mindset, the simplified definition, and then an affirmation that they can learn of like, what does it mean to be curious? What does it mean to have a growth mindset? And so these can just be great to put up on your wall as you're going through not just VentureLab, but any of the many different curriculums that you're utilizing through Yippee. So, okay, I'm going to check the chat because I asked you guys to do something. Ooh, 2 virtual enterprise companies. That sounds, Greg, you are very like you're doing all this stuff. We need to have you on here to do Power Hour. Um, I love it. Service learning projects for college students, entrepreneurship education project using business model canvas. Yes. Okay, that is so cool. They made $400 selling slime. Yes. Oh my gosh. This is beautiful. So read in these comments what educators are doing. So what I want to leave you with are just some things to keep in mind. Um, all right. I'm gonna stop sharing because I don't have any other things, but things to keep in mind. Start with what you have and know. You do not need to have a business background, guys. I don't have a business background. My background is in family studies, and then I was asked to teach entrepreneurship, and now I ended up here at VentureLab. I hope that doesn't discredit this presentation, but you don't have to be an incredible business person to teach things like this, right? You want it to be fun. You want to keep it simple, and you want to create a fun experience for them where they are being able to be creative, think about their passions, like Sonia was talking about, create something that they're proud of, and then be able to interact with their classmates to create a transactional experience. The last thing that I'd like to share is just one more resource. I lied. We're going to share one more time. welcome to my mom brain. Okay, so we have something, this may not be as much for the first and second graders, but for those, I know that we have quite a few older grades as well. This is called VentureLab's Business Planner. And so it's kind of an online interactive way where they're able to, right, put their big idea. So this idea is called Cardtastic Customizable Cards, right? So they're selling customizable greeting cards. They're able to type in who's going to buy it from you to start thinking about their target market. And then how are you going to make and spend your money? So having them think about those long-term goals of like, what do I want to use it? Do I want to invest it back into my um, place? Do I want to like aim to buy an iPad? Whatever it is that they're wanting to do, they can put their goals here. And my favorite part is really how we can simplify expenses and revenue. So they're able to really think about those resources of, okay, to make a card, I need paper and markers, maybe some glitter. Think about what those costs are, how much they're going to need, and that will do the math for them. And then they're able to type in their revenue, right? Of, okay, I'm going to make 5 cards. I'm going to price them at $2 a piece. And then you can click and test your business plan. So you go here and it will let you know if you have made a profit or if you may be at a loss. And so this is just another way that they can simply look through these things and take into consideration those tangible transactions. So in the end, we really want our students to have that tangible, fun experience where they learn some of these business concepts along the way. So you can find all these resources on Yippee, and I hope you check it out. I hope you check all of these resources out. And if you have any questions, I will put my email in the chat. And we're just really excited to have your students practice those financial literacy concepts at a young age. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Amazing. And I really love how all of you referred to each other because you're all, really highlighting the, like starting young and getting those ideas at all ages from the very young ones. And then also how all of you talked about like this is really about life decisions, right? And it is how you're earning money and spending money and saving money, but it's also making those life decisions along the way. So I love the overlap and how this is bouncing between this, the same topics, but really covering these important things to start teaching our young kids. So thank you all. Amazing resources. And I think this gives everyone a lot to sift through. You will all get everything in the follow-up folder. So you can start kind of exploring and figuring out what you want to use or play around with. And you will get everyone's contact information if you want to reach out. Reach out to us at YEI, please. We are here to help you and help navigate through all of these different materials and everything. So that was phenomenal. Really, thank you all to the speakers. Just a couple things before I click off here. I am going to put in the chat a link to the survey from today so that you can give us feedback and we can hear from you. And also with that is the code for Yippee points for today for being here on the Power Hour. So I'm going to put that in the chat in just a second. And then if everybody wants to mark their calendars for January 20th, it's a Tuesday, not a Wednesday, that will be our next Power Hour. And we will be exploring innovative resources with the theme Igniting Ideas in the New Year. So we will be sending out more information about that soon. But if you want to mark January 20th is the next Power Hour. So, and let me put that survey and Yippee code in the chats. And if you want to stick around and hear more about Yippee, or if you have questions for any of us, please do that. Otherwise, thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate your support. And I hope that you walk away with lots of new ideas. So thank you.